Hi folks, how you doing? This is Iqbal with NVIDIA Daily Analysis. NVIDIA recovered about 4% today, so that's a good sign. In this video, we'll discuss how NVIDIA can behave rest of the week using data analysis, fundamentals, and technical charts. Now, let's get started. Starting with the daily summary, NVIDIA opened at 104.88. It made a high 106.55, it made a low 103.69, and it closed at 106.47. That is 3.54% up. As I predicted last week that Nvidia should make some recovery early this week. So today's upside is in line with my expectation, and I see more recovery on Nvidia this week. Depending on the CPI data that's going to be published on Wednesday, Nvidia might get more momentum if CPI data comes lower than the forecast. Let's take a look at economic calendar. So based on the economic calendar for this week, today not much activity. Tomorrow I don't see any significant data coming up. And Wednesday we have CPI and core CPI data. So the CPI year over year expectation is 2.6% versus last cycle actual was 2.9%. And the core CPI year over year 3.2% the forecast, and the last cycle it came 3.2%. I'm guessing CPI year over year forecast is somewhat aggressive. There is a possibility, based on my understanding, maybe actuals may not come lower than the forecast. But the core CPI year over year 3.2% forecast, I am guessing the actuals may meet the forecast or even come lower than the forecast. Because last cycle versus this cycle, the forecast has not gone down. And on Thursday, we have weekly initial jobless claim and the PPI data, and those two numbers are very important as well. And Friday, nothing much. So Wednesday and Thursday basically are very important, and that would define the market movement for this week. Moving on further, last 5 days, Nvidia is still negative 8.23%. Last 1 month, you see Nvidia is still positive 1.64%. Last 6 months, 24% up. Year to date, interestingly, is still above 100%. That is 121% up. So, based on the long term horizon, you might notice is still Nvidia has some room to go further down because still 121% up in just 9 months. But based on my understanding, as I said, Nvidia should make more recovery from here. So I'm seeing Nvidia to be trading around 115 sometime end of this week. And that's my understanding. So I'm not sure if you followed my opinion or my suggestion to you guys when I said around 100 is a very good buy for Nvidia. So I'm not sure how many of you has bought Nvidia stock when it was around 102. I guess that was a good deal. As you see in this table, Nvidia forward P at this point is at 34.57, slightly higher than the last week closing. So that's a good sign. Nvidia is started gaining some momentum this week. Palantir 101.76 versus last week closing 89.21. So it was a very good day for Palantir. Palantir was up about 14%. SMCI at this point 12.90 versus last week 12.16. So slightly higher than last week closing. AMD 35.88 versus 34.90, slightly higher than the last week closing as well, and that's a good sign. And based on the cumulative percentage change, As you see on your screen, Nvidia at this point is 9.27% down from the last earnings date. So that also suggests that Nvidia should make more recovery this week. Now let's take a look technical charts. You see 90-day hourly interval chart for Nvidia on your screen and also the MACD chart. So you see that MACD chart gained some momentum this morning, is trying to go further up, and at this point slightly above the zero line, and that's a good sign. So MACD line entered in the positive region. So this also suggests that Nvidia should go further up this week. Now let's take a look Fibonacci levels. Now you see some Fibonacci levels on your screen. I selected this point that was about 75.8 as my lowest point and 140.56 as the highest point. So the reason for selecting this point is in last 180 days Nvidia recovered from this point. It never touched this point again in last 180 days. So based on that, the 78% retracement was 100.56. And that's why I had an opinion that 100 would be a very good buy point for Nvidia. And after 100, the next support level was 89. And that was also a very good support level. On the upper side, we have 108 as the resistance level, and after that is 115.8. And after that 125.28, and that is my litmus test. Once Nvidia breaks 125, then I would trust that the uptrend on Nvidia or the strong momentum on Nvidia is back again. But before the next FOMC meeting, I guess that is on 18th or 19th this month, Nvidia at least should be trading around 115 by that time. I'm saying at least. It could be higher than that. Now let's take a look some news regarding Nvidia. So starting from this one, and that is good for Mr. Jensen Huang, and he added more wealth in 2024 besides Mr. Musk, Bezos, and Gates. Now this talks about volatility on Nvidia. It says Nvidia stock and other tech set for more volatility, but it won't last. That's true. Nvidia is still is in the volatile region, but after today's upside of 3 to 4%, I'm guessing it should gain more momentum on the upside. Now, good thing about Oracle, and they got positive earning reports, beat estimates, and the stock is going up. So now it says shares of semiconductor stocks are trading higher amid a rebound in tech stocks. So that's a good sign. So not just Nvidia, I see most of the tech stocks are high today. Market is again starting to gain momentum on the tech stocks. And now this one that says Nvidia seen as top pick despite potentially lower gross margin. And that's a good thing for Nvidia shareholders, even if in the future outlook the margin is shrinking, but big investors, is still positive about Nvidia. So Nvidia went down about 15 to 20% in last 2 weeks, but not further than that. So this says that some big investors is still holding Nvidia stock. So as you notice, Palantir stock went up about 14%, and one of the main reason behind is S&P inclusion. So that says Benzinga market summary. Nvidia rebounds, Dell and Palantir to join S&P 500. So good for Palantir shareholders. I guess I should have bought Palantir a few weeks back instead of SMCI. So now let's take a look. This one, they're still talking about the probe on Nvidia from Department of Justice. And as I mentioned last week that this should be a short-term effect on Nvidia. Overall, I see Nvidia is not going down too much because of this news. So that's what exactly happened. You see, Nvidia went down probably about 8 or 10% last week, but now it started gaining momentum. No further decline happened today. Now, this one is important. It says Nvidia stock rises, but Citi says the chip maker's dominance could be ending. Let's open it. So, one of the reasons they quoted behind their findings is this one that says the expectation that the Federal Reserve will soon start slashing interest rate has also accelerated a rotation out of the once dominant Magnificent Seven group of mega tech stocks. So basically, they are trying to say once Fed will start doing the rate cut, the investors would try to move their money from Nvidia and other AI stocks to other potentially good stocks. They could be non AI or non tech stock as well. And they further mentioned that they do not expect Nvidia to carry on being a massive driver of returns of the benchmark S&P 500 index, even though they are predicting that its profit growth will remain strong. So their analysis kind of makes they think that the ideal time or the golden period what Nvidia enjoyed in last few quarters probably we should not expect that period to come again. So maybe they are right, but the future or the time will tell if their analysis and finding was close to the reality. And if you ask my opinion on their findings, I tend to agree somewhat on their analysis because I also think that Nvidia year to date is up about 120% in last 9 months. So in next 9 months, I'm not seeing Nvidia to make another 120% upside from this point. Maybe it can make about 30, 40, or 50% upside in next few quarters, but not about 120 or 125% in just 3 quarters. I guess that's all about Nvidia news for today. Now let's take a look other AI stocks. So if you take a look, all the AI stocks or the tech stock are positive in my watch list. The highest positive change is on Palantir, that is 14% up. And the lowest is Apple, that is 0.04% up. I guess that's all about NVIDIA analysis and assessment for rest of the week. I will provide further details and the historical data analysis on CPI in my tomorrow's video. I hope you like the video. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you more tomorrow. Take care.